share my pocketed scrapbooking process with you guys today. And so before I get started with the actual project today, I thought I would start by talking a little bit about the prep work that I do before I sit down, because I like it to go fairly quickly, and that's one of the things that I love about pocket scrapbooking is that you can kind of get into a groove and get moving and feel like you're producing a lot of cards. And so I love the feeling I get from doing that. So I take a few minutes at the beginning just to what I normally do, I don't always, but what I like to do is start by cutting up all of my Ormolu cut-aparts. And so I just went to my trimmer and cut up the two cards that comes with two 4x6 cards with these little cut-aparts. And I didn't do these banners. I can just quickly snip those with a set of scissors if I need them, when I need them. So I have those all cut up, and there's more of them right here. And then I have my enamel dots. So what I like to do is just kind of familiarize myself with what's in the kit before I get started. I have my printables here, and then I have just a printed copy of the cut files for this kit, just so that I can kind of remember what they are without going to my computer and looking at them. Then I have all of the little doodads that come in the kit right here. And I just look at things like the phrases on it, like heart this place. There's a number 10 here. There's some stars. There's some postage stamps with a gem, an exclamation point, a heart, an ampersand, and then there's this little spinner thing that comes with a little arrow, so it can tell, it might be for capturing how you feel about something. So I'll keep that in mind when I'm looking at photos for printing up. I just have a look at the phrases that come on this rub-on to use, but what I'm looking for is something that might spark a memory that I have of a story that I want to tell this month. And so we've got yeah and meh, and shot from the heart, and pick of the week with some little photography related images. And then I'm just going to look through these cards super quick. I'm not going to show them all to you because I've already done that in another video, but I'm just kind of having a look at the phrases, because my next step, take time, the next step is I'm going to go over to my computer and have a look at what photos I've taken in the past couple months, basically since the last time I did pocket scrapping. So that was last month, and I do have cards to share with you from last month as well. They went on a little adventure before they were able to be shared with you guys, so I'll tell you about that a little later. Camera ready. There's a cityscape here. And we went to Moncton, which isn't like a very big city, but you know, there's that. Highlights, shine on. Okay. And then a lot of these patterns are just kind of very general, and you can use them in anything. So this is what I do at the beginning, and then there's this I really want to use this. Yeah, I love this, so I'm going to want to use that. So, and that's another thing that I'm sort of thinking about, is what do I definitely want to make sure I use, because I only do this monthly, I'm not going to be able to use all of these cards, and so I want to make sure that my very favorite ones make it onto the page. So this says small victories, so that's something to keep in mind when I'm looking at my photos. Who, what, when, where, why. Don't forget this top notch, stay classy. That I should think about that when I'm looking at my photos. Okay, so now I'm just going to go over to my photos. I'm not going to bring you because I'm not set up for doing screen captures on my computer, but I'll come back and tell you what I selected to scrapbook for this session. Okay, so I thought I would actually share with you my process for choosing photos, because it is something that I get a fair amount of questions on. And so I'm kind of trying to multitask here with my video camera. What I do is I start with this month's photo stream. I'm not sure if you can see that there. If you have anything other than a Mac, this is going to look different, but I basically go into my photo software, and my computer system at home is set up so that any photo that I take on my iPhone just automatically gets put here, and so I don't have to do anything. All my photos are just right here. So this is just like looking through my phone for photos, and that is pretty much where I get most of my photos from for all kinds of scrapbooking. So I have just kind of a bunch of cat photos here, as you can see. I don't need to scrapbook all of those. So what I've done is I've sort of gone through my photo stream and picked out some of my favorite photos from this month, and I flagged them. So then I go into my flagged area, and these are the photos that I wound up with. Now I did stop at one point because it became pretty clear. I have a couple of kind of like everyday life photos here, like I started a workout video, so I wanted to just kind of capture that, and I'm using my Misfit Shine, and I wanted to capture that, and a couple of other things. But then there were a whole bunch of photos of this weekend trip that we took to our friend's cottage. There were so many of them that I definitely want to document, and there's no way I'm going to do this many project or 12 by 12 layouts of all of these photos. So what I've done is I've decided that this month's pocket pages will be about this weekend, and sometimes I do that. I do like to have like themed pocket pages every once in a while because it allows me to get a whole lot of photos captured in just 1 or 2 pages. And so without having to go through, you know, the design process of figuring out how to fit that many photos on to 1 or 2 12 by 12 layouts. And so that's what I'm going to do with this one. So that's a bit of a change in my strategy for this month, but that's okay. And so the next thing that I do is once I have all of these photos, I'm not really going to use these ones at the top here. I'm going to start with this photo right here. I don't know if you can see me hovering on it, but that's the one I'm going to start with. And then I'm going to scrap all of these, or most of these. I'm not sure which ones will make it and which ones won't. Obviously, I have a couple of doubles here that I won't scrapbook both of. So the way that I decide on printing is I don't actually design a card around, oh, and I'm going to print up a 2 by 2 photo for this one. What I do is I start with my photos. So when I have a variety, some of these are landscape, some of these are portrait, and lots of these are squares. So I start with my landscapes because I know that I have 4 by 6 pockets on a standard pocket page that I use. I use Design A from Becky Higgins. So I'm going to start by picking out the photos that are either significant enough that I want a 4 by 6 photo of it, or the kind of photos that you're not going to see the details unless if you print it up in a fairly large size. So for this one, for example, this is a landscape photo, but if you look really, 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 really close, there is Marcel sitting on the rock. And if I printed this in a small format, you're going to miss Marcel being there, and it's going to be really hard to see that. So this is one that I'm definitely going to print in 4 by 6, and then I just hold down the command button and I pick a couple of others. So I think I picked this one just because there's several people that I want to be able to see in this one, and if I didn't print it big you would miss kind of who those people are. And then I think I printed this one as well. So I just select the ones that I'm going to print in 4 by 6, and then I do Control P, Control P. I can't do it left-handed. Let's see. I've got my, there we go. And that brings up this screen, and then I just choose the size, and for this I want them to be 4 by 6, so I just, choose the sizes up here in this area, and then I just send it to print. So the first thing that I do is I choose, and now I'm just going to go back to flagged, I choose all of my 4 by 6s and I print them. Then I'm going to, so I'm thinking about full pocket pictures first. So those would be starting with the 4 by 6. Then we've got some portrait oriented photos right here, like this one and this one. And I would like these two to really fill the page because this I think is just beautiful. And this one is beautiful too, but it's also, these people are so tiny that if I don't print this photo big, again, you're gonna miss the details of who's in this photo. So then I selected this one and this one. I can't select them both right now because I'm using one hand. But I
selected both of those and I printed those at 4x3 so that they will fill a 4x3 pocket. And I actually print mine. This is just a little quirk of either my printer or my computer. I've noticed that my printer consistently prints things a tiny bit bigger than what I ask it to. So I actually printed these at, what was it, 2.8 by 3.8, so that it would definitely fit within a 3x4 pocket. And then if there's a bit of a border, that's okay. I can just mat it on something. So that's the next. So I'll go through all of these photos and select all of the landscape oriented ones that I want to be in the 3x4 size and print all of those. I almost always will print my sorry, I said landscape, my portrait oriented photos. I will almost always print those all up in 3x4 size, just so that they fit within that pocket. That's just the size that I like to work with for that orientation, and I don't take many of those, so they tend to be pretty special shots. They're portrait oriented for a reason. It's because that's in the way that I had to fit the subject matter into the frame. So then I do that. Then I take any other landscape oriented photos, so that would include this one and this one, which aren't as beautiful, and this one as well, which just kind of like, this one isn't a perfect shot. He's not looking directly at the camera, and Evan is kind of hanging on them, and it's also just kind of like lots of brown, and they're big enough in this photo that I can print this one smaller and still see them, and it's a little bit blurry, so I don't really want this to be in 4x6. So I have these 3 photos here that I'm going to print in 2x3 because that's the size that I like for my landscape oriented photos that are not 4x6. So I printed those up, and any other ones that were that size. Then the only pictures that I had left were oriented, so I now only have square photos left. So of the square photos, I'm using the same principles to decide which size I print them at. I usually print my squares in one of 2 sizes. They're either a photo like this, which again, this one is blurry, so I would normally like to print this in a 3.8 by 3.8, which it will go in a 4x6 pocket if I print it that size. But because it's blurry, this one got printed at a smaller size, which is 2x2. So I print at 3.8 by 3.8, which ends up being essentially 4x4. Or I printed at 2x2. So this one is one that I printed at 2x2 because, I mean, that's a whole lot of face for a big card, and nobody wants that going on. So I printed that one at 2x2. It's a little bit more flattering for faces to be printed a little bit smaller because we don't need to see our pores and everything. So that one was 2x2. This one, I can't remember which one I did this one. I was thinking about printing it bigger just because I like this photo a lot. This one I think I printed at 2x2 because I like because it will kind of accentuate the fact that the forest is really big and that people are really little. This one was 2x2 because I can't remember. Anyway, so I just kind of decide. Sometimes I have a reason, and sometimes I'm just kind of trying to say, well, I printed a whole bunch that were big, so I better print a bunch that are small too. So those are the 2 sizes for my squares. 3.8 by 3.8 and 2.2 by 2. No, 2x2. And so I have to print them in batches that are same size because my software doesn't allow me to, select each. I don't think there's any software, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't know any software but the one I use, but the software that I use only allows me to print one size at a time. So I just go through in batches like that, and I printed them all up, and here they are right here. And that might be a longer explanation than many of you guys need, but I know that I often, when I post a Pocket Page video, a lot of people ask me questions about how I decide which photos go where. So that is how I decide how I print my photos. Okay, so I've just trimmed up my photos. They're all ready to go now, and I leave a border on all of them these days. I've kind of go through phases where I leave borders and phases where I don't. I basically leave a border on any photo that I can. So the times when I can't is when, for example, when I printed up these 2 3x4 photos, they printed on one single piece of paper, and the strip between them was so narrow that I wouldn't be able to put a reasonable size border around
all of them, so I just removed the border from this one, and then I did the same for the same reason with the 3x2 ones. And what I'll do is if I want to put borders on them, which I probably will, I'll just mat them on white cardstock myself. So I'm going to put you guys on fast forward so you can see my process for this now. So I'll see you on the other side of this layout. Okay, so I managed to get my print and cut files to work, and it was actually really easy. It worked perfectly on my first try, despite the fact that I played around a little bit with the sizing of the printed document. So I think it would have printed even better if I had just left that alone. Anyhow, it was super, super easy. So I'm glad about that because I'm not good at technology type of things. Now, this video was very, very, very long, so I had to speed it up quite a bit. So I do apologize for that. I just went to get some arrows because there are no arrows in this kit. Most kits do come with arrows, but there's none in this kit. So I just went to my stash and got some Studio Calico chipboard stickers, and that one says True Story or something like this. This happened, true story. I think it's true story. Anyhow, I zoomed in a little bit so that you could see me make this title card, and I'm going to put the word economy right beside this little design that says put your heart in it. And put your heart in it isn't really a phrase that needs to be there, but it's just a cute little phrase. It's not really relevant to my title, but I do like it. It doesn't clash with my title or sound terribly strange. So I'm just using these letter stickers that came in the kit, and they are surprisingly made out of vellum. I thought that they were paper. So I'm taking one of my narrowest pens. This is a .01 pen. I do have a more narrow one than this, but I want it to be, pardon me, I want it to be a fine line that I'm just outlining this with because it's not very readable, those blue vellum letter stickers on that pattern paper background. So that just increases the readability a little bit and creates a little bit more contrast between my letter stickers and the background. So I decided to put Nova Scotia because economy is a strange word for a place. It sounds more like the word economy. So I just wanted it to be clear that it's a place. So I put Economy Nova Scotia, and then I decided to go even further and make this title say Trip to Economy Nova Scotia, and that makes it even more clear what it is that this next page and the back side are going to be about. And those blue letter stickers are from a previous Scraptastic kit, and they were, I don't remember where they came from because I cut them up. They came with other stickers. Now, when I was outlining, I just rounded the corners because that helped that title card to kind of coordinate with the circular scribbly mark in the middle of it. So I am going ahead, and I have to trim these down a little bit just to make the border around the mat around them show up. So those are those full-size 4x3 photos that fill a pocket. So I went ahead and sacrificed 2 cards in order to do that. I didn't sacrifice them, I mean I'm using them, but you can only see a tiny, tiny little bit of the pattern. And sometimes I cringe a little bit when I do that because I feel like, boy, that was a really beautiful card. But it's, having it showing even a little bit it's still beautiful. It's a beautiful little tiny edge around the edges of my photos. So I love this pattern with all the scribbly lines around it, and the center part just wasn't relevant, and I think it looks really great with this photo of the river. And so I definitely want to put one of these word strips or phrase strips across the bottom, and I just was trying to decide which one, and I decided to go ahead and use this green one. And you'll get to see what it looks like at the end. One of the problems with doing a process video is that I almost always forget to hold up the cards so that you can see them as I'm making them. So what I've done in this video, and why it's so long, is that at the end of this process video, I do a share. So I'm just going to hold up each card so that you can see it at the end. I thought about layering that print and cut piece there, the yellow label, underneath of the flare badge on that card. But I decided it looked a little bit too busy because all those leaves in the foreground were already fairly busy, and I actually don't want to take away from those leaves because it's a big part of the way that I shot that photo. So I don't want anything competing with the leaves. So I just put the flare badge there. So now I have this beautiful card, and I've said before how much I love this element, this kind of cross section of a tree with a heart in the very middle of the rings. And so I definitely don't want to cover up much of this card. So I'm just doing a little bit of journaling on another piece of that cuttable file that we got, cut apart file from Ormaloo that came in the kit, and it just says life is, and then a place for a blank, and I put beautiful, and then it says we are, and I put lucky. And because it's all about a walk in the woods, it's relevant to have a cross section of a tree there. And so now I want to do some journaling for this photo that just kind of points out the fact that Marcel is on the rocks. He's really tiny and you can't see him very much. So I definitely want to do some journaling with an arrow up that just points to the card. So that means that that 4x6 is going to have to go in a top pocket, not a bottom pocket. And then this card is going to have to go in one of the two slots below it. So I will have to keep that in mind when it comes to just kind of figuring out how many cards I need. So you might notice that I'm doing this a little bit differently than I used to, which is that I am just making a bunch of cards. I'm not figuring out where anything is going to go until the very end. So I chose the Sunshine Mr. Huey's here, and that's a really nice yellowy color that coordinates with the yellow that is in this kit. I just sprayed a little bit on my craft mat here. This is one of those heat-proof mats from Tim Holtz, and I just dipped my paintbrush in water and kind of watercolored that arrow so that the arrow is yellow instead of white. I just didn't want it to be white. And now I want to layer this star over top, but you can't. It's a see-through star, so you can't really see it very well. So I'm going to give this a try. I wasn't sure if it would work, but this is tumble dye, and I don't know if it works any different than the other dyes, the other mists that I own. I chose this color because it's the color that I wanted, and so I just misted it. I misted it on both sides, and then I just blobbed it with a paper towel so that it would look kind of smeared, and I'm just letting it dry. And at this point, I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work out or if just all of that mist is going to crumble off once it's dry. Anyways, I'm using some repositionable adhesive, and I am sticking a punched circle. That's a 2-inch circle that I punched with a hole punch, and I just used it as a guide so that I could sew some scribbly lines in a circle around that. I used some washi tape on the back just to keep my stitching from coming undone. And that was another card that I just really loved so much I didn't want to cover it up, so I thought stitching with white thread will just give it a bit of interest. So there's how that card showed up once the star was dry, and it did work out. So the ink doesn't seem to be crumbling off of the piece of acrylic or anything. Those are, I think they're from Heidi Swap. I shouldn't say that because I don't know for sure. I don't know who makes those. So now I do have a bunch more photos left, and they're all just kind of finding their way onto cards at this point. And you know, I'm just kind of going with what fits where and what gives me enough space to do a tiny little bit of journaling. You see me, I keep going back to the cards that I have. That's because I'm counting them to think about how many slots I have left in what sizes. So yeah, I used one of those print and cut files that I had on my silhouette, and just a tab. It says, "Oh wow," and so I put that under that photo, and now I'm putting this photo in the middle of this card, and I'm going to put this rub-on top of it, just like that. One thing that I love about rub-ons is that they can go over layers. As long as there's not too many layers, they can go over layers fairly nicely. And now I'm just layering a couple of little doodads that came with the kit. The printable yellow label that I'm putting on right now, just layering it under the photo, and then that wood veneer postage stamp with an ampersand on it because this photo is about these two walking in the woods. That's Marcel and my daughter, my younger daughter. And I'm not going to do any journaling about this because I've already done a 12 by 12 layout about it. So I think I have. I meant to anyways. If I haven't yet, I will be. I think I have. Anyhow, I had to trim this up because I really wanted a little white border around the edge of it. And I'm going to do a bit of journaling down here. Now I'm feeling a little bit like I can't remember if I did that. Yes, I did. It says go. It's my Go Somewhere Lovely layout. I'm putting their names up in the corner, just I don't know why, because there's lots of references to them in the other journaling on these pages, but I thought I would just do it just in case you're browsing through it and not really taking the time to look at all of the journaling. You'll know who that is in that photo. Adding a couple more rub-ons, or well, that one, and then I'm going to add another one in a second. So filling up that space with a little bit of journaling. And this card is looking a little plain to me. So I'm trying to think about what can I do to jazz it up a little bit. So I thought, well, first of all, I'll add another phrase under, like still on the banner and under the phrase that came on there. And then I thought, let's dump a couple of sequins on here, and the sequins that fell out of the bottle were all blues and greens, and that made me realize that the photo is all blues and greens, like we're all wearing blue sweaters and then the green of the forest, and then this card is also blues and greens. So I thought I'm gonna go with blues and greens and just make this card kind of reflective of the photo. I'm thinking about doing some stamping, but I'm not going to do any stamping until the end, and I'm actually not going to use the stamp set from this kit on this particular spread. I will use it because I absolutely love that little camera, and I love the little phrases too, so I'll definitely use it, just not today. So I used 2 print and cuts on this one, the awesome banner and then the oh wow tab, and then I just did a little bit of journaling, and I really like the simplicity of that on the star, the yellow star pattern background. So at this point I'm counting up my cards and making sure that I'm going to have enough spaces for 2 more 4x3s and 1 more 4x6 because I have 2 more photos that I definitely want to get on there, and then I do have another photo that just isn't going to make it, the one of Tanya and I, and then I also want to do a large kind of journaling card on the 4x6. So just on a whim I decided to try that ampersand in the corner, and I loved the look of it so much that I just left it. I just put it on. It's funny how I wouldn't have thought that I would like that ampersand there, but I just took it out and tried it there anyways. And oftentimes that is how I go. Like I end up stumbling upon what I like instead of, like I rarely have a good sense of what I want to do. I just kind of stumble around until it all comes together, and it usually looks okay. So I want this one to say walk along the beach. And so I just went back to that same set of letter stickers that I had before. I keep thinking that those are Alison Kreft. I think they might be Alison Kreft letter stickers from whatever Alison Kreft has done recently. And they were definitely in a Scraptastic kit. So going back to these vellum letter stickers, and so I'm going to spell out walk, and then along the, and then the beach is already on there. So the word the fits so perfectly between the ascenders in beach, like between the B and the H, that I had to nestle it in there. And plus, this title is a little crowded, so that allows me to fit along and the on top of each other instead of beside each other, because it would be too long if they were beside each other. So there's that card, and like I said, I will show you the close-up of all of these in the end. And now this is the last photo, and this is not the prettiest photo that I took that weekend, but it's a picture of the little bunk bed cubbies that the kids slept in. We slept in a trailer beside the cottage because the cottage is so tiny it doesn't have enough room for another whole family to sleep in. And so the kids were just ecstatic that they'd finally get to sleep in a trailer, and they were so excited about the bunk beds that came in this trailer. I forgot about these stars, so I had to go back and add them in another place because I felt like they're just too cute to not use, to only use once. I wanted to use them twice. So yeah, the kids were really excited about the bunk bed, so I had to journal that and grab that photo because those are the kinds of things that the kids will like looking at. So I got these who, what, when, where, and why cut aparts or print and cuts, and I was thinking, how can I use these? And I'm thinking something like color blocking might look nice. And so I'm not entirely sure exactly what I'm going to do here, but I thought I would try just putting them right up against each other along the bottom and covering up that's kind of like a data place where you can enter, you circle your month and your date and that sort of thing. And I thought maybe I could do like sideways journaling in colored pens that coordinate with the colors on this card. And then I thought, no, even what would look even better is if I had like a swatch of ink. And then I remembered there was a stamp set in a previous This Life Noted kit that had this swatch of ink. And so I went searching in my stash and found this swatch of ink stamp. And I can't tell you which month it came from. I think it might come from the month that had the story I heard. I could be wrong. But anyways, it's from some time within the past 6 months or so. So now I'm using my Stampin' Up! Inks. That blue one is Pool Party. The yellow one is Crisp Cantaloupe. The orange one is Crisp Cantaloupe. The yellow one is Daffodil Delight. The blue one is Bashful Blue. And the green one is Pistachio Pudding. And I think they coordinate very nicely with the colors that were on those print and cuts. I'm just so surprised that I'm using print and cuts. I can't even say it. It doesn't roll off my tongue easily.
I think I have the right amount of cards for a spread, unless if I've miscalculated. So this is going to be a double-sided single page in my scrapbook. What I've been doing with my pocket pages is just doing one back-to-back spread per month, or about that, and just putting it in with my other layouts in my regular scrapbook. So I'm going to lay these templates out like this, and these are just templates that I made using a ruler and a marker. They're pretty basic. But you know, I can put them like this or like this depending on which kind of a pocket page I'm using. Those are the two I use the most. So now there are two of these cards that go together, and this needs to go above the card that goes with it because it has an arrow. So this could go here or here. I would like this to go right here. I'd like to kind of spread out the full size photos, the full 4x6 ones. This is kind of like the data for the trip. And now let's see if this works out. This is a picture of the inside of the trailer. This was a walk on the beach that happened after these other photos, so I want to make sure that goes down around here somewhere. The covered bridge. This is the beginning of the walk. This might actually go over there. This is sort of now these are not going to be beside each other, so these two pictures sort of go together. So if I were doing a standard pocket page book album where all of my pages are pocket pages and these two are going to face each other instead of be back to back, I might want these two to go here, but I actually don't want these two to go here because they don't actually go together. So I'm going to put, or they do go together, so I'm going to put those there.
this was on the way to the falls. Okay. So, okay, I'm really liking how this page is looking just balance-wise. I like that there's some kind of bigger photos and then the non-photo elements are sort of spread out. So I like that. These two kind of go together because they're both from our walk on the beach and they're the only two photos of the walk on the beach. If I put that there, then these two are too similar and they're too close together. But if I put that there and that there, then it balances it out a little bit. And I'm kind of liking that. Yes, I like that. So that's going to be my spread. And I really love doing it this way. This is a new way for me to, I usually have these out and I'm kind of filling it in as I go. But for the past 3 or 4 times that I've done pocket scrapbooking, all I've been doing is just making cards and keeping track of how many large cards I have and how many small cards I have, and also knowing that each 4x6 could be replaced by a 3x4. So in this case, I was aiming to have 8 4x6s, but I only wound up with 6, but that's okay because if I made 4 extra 3x4 cards, I could fill those 2 gaps with those. So that's sort of how I keep track of it as I go. And then I'm done all at once, and then I can just play around with where everything goes. And the only thing that I have to be careful of when I do that is just making sure that cards that go together can stay together. So I don't want it to be too complicated to put it back together like a complicated jigsaw puzzle or anything. So if I have too many of these ones where photos are pointed, where journaling and photos are kind of connected together like this, I probably wouldn't do it this way. I would probably do it like with using the template as I go. Okay, so now I'll just quickly show you each of these cards. Oh, if I could get my hands on them. This is my title card. I rounded the edges here because I wanted it to kind of coordinate with this design that was right here. I used those letter stickers that weren't in the kit. Then next card is really just the photo with a little sticker on it from my stash. Just a little chipboard sticker. I wanted an arrow, and this kit doesn't come with an arrow. Usually there are some arrows. And then this little card that just documents our walk in the woods. And this one is really just a matted photo. The photo is so beautiful I didn't want to cover up any of it. And then this one, but I'm not sure if the effect of having the star is really showing up on the video, but if you take a look at the photos, you'll get to see how that looks. I think it looks really cute. It adds a little bit of interest to it. This one is pretty plain, but I like how it turned out. This one I really just matted the photo and added a strip. This one I didn't do anything to, just this picture of my daughter. Another photo left as it is. This one just has a little flare badge on it. This one, off camera, I added 2 little staples with my tiny attacher just because it looked like this area here was a little bit too plain. And it wasn't clear, like this thing looked weird just sitting there, so I thought it should be attached with something. So that's why I used my stapler. I really love this card. And so that's it. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and have a really great scrappy week.